Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining in another week. I have a great show planned for you. Later, I'll have with me Sheriff Tom Howard. We'll be talking about all things going on in Ohio County, particularly all the construction going on and how it's affected our roadways and the traffic. But first, we'll start with some of our usual features. And I'm going to start off talking about some statewide issues, which particularly include our governor. Story in the Charleston Gazette this past week about the governor's still having strong interest in being heavily involved with his private companies that he's owned prior to becoming governor. And at the time, he had indicated that he would be putting those interests into a blind trust. They would be run by his children, et cetera. But the governor has continued to participate in litigation involving his private companies. He's continued to have dealings at the Greenbrier Resort, dealings with his coal companies. And really, the Charleston Gazette article bringing a lot of attention to that, as are his opponents for the upcoming election, both Republican challengers and Democratic challengers alike. Of course, Woody Thrasher, one of the more vocal individuals running on the Republican side of things, and running a lot of TV ads and seeing him talking about things that he feels important. And then on the Democratic side, of course, Stephen Smith has been in the race for now over a year and has really brought about a lot of activity, a lot of action with having different committees through his West Virginia Can't Wait platform or campaign, and had him on the show a month ago or so. And Ben Salango, Kanawha County Commissioner, now throwing his hat into the ring as well. Senator Stallings throwing his hat into the ring on the Democratic side. So a lot of people bringing up these issues involving the governor. Of course, Delegate Isaac Spinagle has already filed a lawsuit previously against the governor for not living at the Capitol in Charleston, saying that's in violation of the state constitution, that it says that the governor must reside at the seat of the Capitol, and that he's not been doing that. He's been living, in Greenbrier, out towards Greenbrier County, and that affects his ability to properly govern under the Constitution. So a lot of activity there, and it'd be interesting to see how this all plays out in the upcoming election. The May primary will be here before we know it, and then of course just about a year from now, a little over a year from now, we'll have the general election where a governor will be elected. So we'll keep an eye on those issues, but something worth watching to see how these things that are being brought about with respect to the governor's private interests affect this election. And for what it's worth, from my perspective, it's troubling, because when you're elected to the highest office in any particular entity, whether it be you're in charge of a state, you're in charge of a nation, whatever it may be, you really need to have at all times the interest of that state, in this particular instance, number one in your mind. You can't be worrying about, well, how does this affect these business interests I have? That's why you really shouldn't even know what's going on with them. You got to kind of ignore those during the time that you're in office. And the fact that the governor pledged that he would do that, but that hasn't exactly played out that way, it appears, at least based upon the stories that are being published and the things that are being said by some of his opponents, that's cause for concern. So that's why we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Give a legal tip here this week, and that is that speed limits are the maximum speed that you're supposed to drive. It doesn't mean you have to drive that, and particularly you need to account for the conditions on the roadways and drive safely given the conditions. And that applies regardless of whether it may be weather conditions. If it's raining really hard out, you don't need to drive the speed limit. Drive lower, slow down, watch what's going on. Snowing, icy conditions, whatever it may be. If there are conditions like fog, you need to watch out. But also what the traffic conditions are like. If it's more heavily congested than usual, and you drive an area and you say it's more congested, slow down. Be prepared that you might have to stop suddenly. Things of that nature. And so many times I think people don't take into account the road conditions, whether it be from the weather or from other conditions such as traffic or construction. I've handled cases, I have one right now in the Columbus area where there was road construction going on and someone wasn't driving carefully given that road construction, and then there was a very serious accident as a result of that. So people really need to take that into account, be mindful of that. Give you a quote. This is the second week in a row that I'm going to give a Halloween quote, because it's that time of year and I really enjoy it. And this one I particularly like. This is from Natalia Neidhart, who is actually a WWE wrestler. And she said, "I love that in celebrating Halloween, we can get lost in the magic of make-believe and fantasy, no matter what age we are." And I thought that was a great quote, because if you think back to when you were a kid, one of the most fun things to do was pretend. Everybody likes to pretend and make-believe and all that type of stuff. And we tend to not do that as much as adults. We have to be more serious and see things for what they are, see reality. But Halloween is that time where it gives us an opportunity to pretend, to dress up as something else, to make believe, to act like we're something else. And so it's a really fun time of year that kind of harkens back to when we were kids. So I particularly like that quote, and one of the reasons I enjoy this time of year. We need to take a break. When we come back, I'll have with me Sheriff Tom Howard. We'll be talking about some of the issues here in Ohio County, including all the road construction and traffic going on. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
Disasters happen. Pick the team that takes care of them all. Powered by offices in Wheeling, Morgantown, and Pittsburgh, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration is ready to handle any size emergency at a moment's notice. We have the right people, knowledge, and equipment to respond 24 hours a day.
I'm Neil Brown. When disaster strikes your home or business, tell your insurance provider you prefer the restoration company the Mountaineers call, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration.
When reviewing your oil and gas offers or royalty check statements, do you wonder, am I being offered a fair amount? Do I feel comfortable reading the statement? Do I have peace of mind? If you answered no to these questions, you need Bordas Mineral Management. Our passion is helping mineral owners protect and expand their mineral wealth. Our examiners tell you whether you're being treated fairly and getting paid what is rightfully yours. Bordas Mineral Management. Be protected. Have peace of mind.
Welcome back to the show. This is my favorite time each week when I have a guest with me, and this week is no different. I have with me Ohio County Sheriff Tom Howard. Sheriff, thanks for being here.
Thanks, I appreciate you inviting me.
You know, one of the big things on people's mind right now, of course, in Ohio County is the traffic. I mean, you know, for a lot of folks, they live in a place like Ohio County because they don't want the big city traffic. They don't want to get away from traffic jams and want to be able to get to where they're going. So even though it may be somewhat temporary, it's something that people aren't used to and they don't quite know how to handle it. So what can people expect and what's been going on?
Well, for approximately the next 3 years, we're going to have traffic tie-ups. Unfortunately, we got some where they had promised to have us down to 2 lanes. Well, certain areas are putting down to 1 lane, and that's causing a bigger traffic tie-up. We actually have a meeting scheduled Friday with the DOH and Swank Construction, which is the major construction, about trying to get some of these traffic issues taken care of because it's backing it up way beyond what it's supposed to. So trying to get this opened up, not only is it backing up I-70 and 470, are also starting to affect the roads. They're starting to figure out the back roads a little bit, so we're getting a lot of people who are not from the area finding their GPS coordinates and going on roads that they really shouldn't belong on.
Let me ask you about that a little bit. A couple of the things you mentioned there. First of all, you know, some of the big traffic issues that I've seen have been, you know, Dallas Pike Hill heading out to the West Virginia PA line, that area. I mean, you almost have to go Route 40, it seems, to get anywhere you're going in Pennsylvania, or go 7 to 22, something, you know, whatever way you can to avoid 70 right now. But then there's a whole other issue, which is 470 as well. What is causing all of that congestion? Is it something that's happening up at the state line? Is it something that's happening in the Elm Grove area? Where's the issue? The
bottleneck right now is just past the 5, right about the 6-mile marker. They're constructing the crossover. So unfortunately, they're cutting it down to 1 lane. So once you cut that area, you know that bottleneck's right there. 470, 70 all comes together. So it's bottlenecking 1 lane of traffic, trying to have basically 4 lanes merge into that, and it's causing the back traffic. We've had traffic back clear up into Ohio.
So we're talking about right when you come down off of 470 to Elm Grove, where it's 470 meets 70, that's really a major issue right there.
The eastbound right there at the 5 is right just past the 5 is where the bottleneck's occurring.
What's, you know, then there's also seems to be some issues, or at least there have been, up toward the West Virginia-Pennsylvania line headed east, as I mentioned, and also west as well. But and what's the issue there? Right
up there is where we have Tunnel Ridge Mine is actually going underneath the highway. Right now they're currently done mining under the highway, but they still have to come back and fully repave it. So it's still going to be till about November the 1st, unless they get the paving done first. That'll still be restricted to 1 lane. But then again, every 7 months we'll be going back underneath the interstate again. So probably about next May we'll have the same kind of construction. They'll open it up, next May they'll cut it back down to 1 lane, and they will come underneath the interstate again.
Let me ask you about that. We were talking a little bit about that before we went on the air, you know, and I asked you the question that, you know, how is it that a private company, a private coal mine, can disrupt the entire interstate travel in the United States by mining underneath the interstate? And you were talking a little bit about that, about why that is.
Yeah, unfortunately, when they put Interstate 70 in, they only bought surface property. They did not buy the mineral rights or anything underground. So they can actually go underneath the highway, in which the mine came in, bought the mineral rights to it. Now, if they make it, once they make it to Route 40, Back when they built Route 40, they bought everything down, so they don't have mineral rights for that. So they have to stop at Route 40, they'll back all their equipment out, and then restart again. So that's why we get a 7-month break where they're going underneath the highway. So they'll do it. They make about a 1,000-foot path. They'll mine all that coal out, they'll back all their equipment out, and then they'll start back underneath it again.
So they can actually go under Interstate 70, which is the major highway, but they can't go under Route 40 just because of the way that the mineral rights were sold or not sold.
Correct. Back when they built National Road Route 40, they had bought everything, mineral rights and all. When they put in it, they just went through and bought surface property.
We're talking about the federal government, I
Federal
assume.
government, yep.
Yeah.
Federal government put Interstate 70 through. They didn't bother buying mineral rights. They brought surface. So they come through and the big companies come in, they bought all the mineral rights, and now they go underneath and mine it.
It seems like the timing can't be worse. I mean, we already got all these other issues because of the construction projects that are going on, and then now Tunnel Ridge is coming through and mining under the interstate too. Is there any way to that you're aware of to try to keep those things from happening at the same time, or is it kind of you're at the mercy of when they want to do it?
We're with the private industry, we're kind of at the mercy of them because they own it, and I know they have plans clear till 2024 to come for the coal mine. They'll do every 7 months. They'll do it till 2024. The project for the highway now, hopefully, will be done before that, because this is supposed to be a 3-year project for our construction. So it'll actually technically be done before Tunnel Ridge is done mining.
Now you mentioned the meeting with the DOH, and that there's some areas where it was supposed to be a certain number of lanes, but it's been reduced down even further. And where are those areas, and what's the idea there?
The one lane they're saying they're doing for safety. I happen to be one to disagree, and other ones disagree, but they're bottlenecking it down. Just past the 5 to 6, it's one lane. So when you're traveling eastbound, you got 4 lanes. You got 2 from 70, 2 from 470 coming down, merging in that, and then it merges down into 3 lanes, and then 3 lanes into 1 lane, which just is making a major problem. We're back in we're getting calls from ODOT. They're calling us saying, why is traffic clear into Ohio? And it's back in, and as everybody local knows that, it's backing clear up into Ohio and causing problems there because you can't even get to Route 7 by the time it backs up. And then the opposite way, we were getting calls from PennDOT because when they were working on 2 Mile Hill, with that, they're cutting it down to 1 lane again. So I just came from the Highlands, that's where I was at, it was backed up to the 11 already. So it's back way up the hill again, down to a 1 lane restriction. When we originally talked all we call stakeholders meetings, they told us it would always be 2 lanes open at all times. And that's not what's happening. So if it's 2 lanes, when it seems like 2 lanes are open, it flows pretty well. When it's down to 1 lane with all the starting of construction, it's 1 lane and it's causing major issues.
We need to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue talking about these issues and what solutions might be out there. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
Recommended by the highest authorities. Danoon Lumber.
It's like a bad one's coming. Yeah. Right?
Sometimes bad things happen to good people. At Bordas & Bordas, when we see this, we do something about it. We can't prevent bad things from happening, but we can get justice when they do.
Bordas & Bordas, fighting for justice.
Welcome back to the show. I've been speaking with my guest this week, Ohio County Sheriff Tom Howard, and we've been talking about a lot of the construction, but one of the issues always with construction, or not always, but at least in this instance, seems to be signage and the difficulties with not having enough notice to people about what's going on.
That's correct, and that's one thing we've been fighting for since the original stakeholder meetings. We need more signage, I had to go to the Highlands this morning. When I was up there, traffic was already backing up, and I had to call and get up here and get some more signage up. We've been trying to get the electronic signs. We still don't have them. At least if we had electronic signs, we could actually put something up on it right away.
Who do you try to get them from?
We try to get the state. We had to get permits from the state to do that, and we actually applied for a couple grants through EMA to try and get more signs. They put some nice signs down on 77, double-sided, huge signs. St. Clair's will just put one up on there right before 470. They put a nice where they can actually put a message up and keep constant instruction going. Because we can put everything we want out on Facebook and try, but you can't look at it while you're driving. So we want to have something up there so it just constantly keeps traffic updated, and we just can't get anybody to do it.
Well, and one of the issues, of course, too, is, with Facebook is that, a lot of the people that are passing through aren't from this area, so they're not necessarily following your Facebook page.
Correct.
So they don't know what's going on, and they're the ones that even more so, I think, need to know, because they're not from this area. They may not be expecting construction or traffic to be stopped, that type of thing, if they're not being alerted.
I agree 100%, and that's why we've been on working with the DOH trying to get more signs because of that. I-70 has thousands and thousands of cars every day that are not from this area. Locals are learning how to get around different, using the back roads and stuff. But the out-of-towners, they come up and boom, they're right there stuck in traffic.
Do the companies actually doing the construction have any obligation to put signage out and how far back they have to go? Or?
Unfortunately, no. DOH is responsible for some. Swank Construction, which is one doing it, is responsible for some signage, but the DOH is actually trying to get them to put more signage up also.
I want to change the subject here for a minute. Had you on the show, gosh, a few years back when I think you were just elected and hadn't even taken office yet. One of the things that you had mentioned back then that really kind of I remembered was you wanted to have more marked vehicles as opposed to the unmarked vehicles, patrolling, things of that nature. And sometimes, you have to try things out, see how it goes and whether it has the effect you want. And I was just wondering, any success with that and what effect it's had? Yeah,
every vehicle we have is marked. Including when I drive. We have marked vehicles, and it gives people see more of it out there. So if they're driving by, they know it's just not, in West Virginia, sheriff's cruiser is supposed to be black. But it's just, that way they know it's just not a black car driving by, it's a marked sheriff's cruiser. And that's good for the citizens knowing, hey, there's a sheriff's cruiser. And the same thing if the criminal element is out there going, oh, there's a sheriff's cruiser coming by. So that's what we wanted, and it gets good. More visibility, and I hear it from people all the time when they talk about, we see sheriff's cruisers everywhere. That's the idea. We want them to be seen, more visible. We have a bigger presence at the schools, but it's just, the visibility is huge. And anytime you see a marked car, that helps a lot of things, whether it be just traveling down the road, or whatever we do, but just seeing those vehicles is huge.
With the traffic congestion, things that are going on, I mean, if you had to up people's hours or have more people on patrol or things like that, and is it harder to get to places, that you need to get people to?
It's a lot harder to get around. Going to emergency calls, sometimes we've had to go some bad calls where we were very lucky that traffic wasn't backed up at that time. We can use there's no emergency lane. When we're not cutting this construction down, there's no way to get around, so we're using the back roads a lot more to try and get to places, which can slow our response time down. Which is huge. I mean, in a couple minutes, being slowed down and getting it can be it's life-threatening, depending upon what it does. So yeah, it's causing major problems for everybody. We're worried about the ambulance services, fire department to get around. Huge difference getting them through, because there's just even when they got this 2-lane fully open, they don't have an emergency lane. And where the other lane is partially open is they've got equipment stacked in it, so we can't just use that lane either. So that it's causing a huge issue.
I think that coupled with, of course, losing a hospital or two, between the OVMC, East Ohio Regional Hospital, now people have to try to get somewhere else too, and now they're having a harder time, longer time getting there, and it's not as close. Creating issues too. I know that some people have said, hey, I'll take Route 2 and go to Reynolds because I can get there quicker. But really a lot of issues with trying to get different places, particularly like Wheeling Hospital that's just off the interstate.
Yeah, well, we've lost 2 major hospitals now with East Ohio closing, and then we've picked up the our mental hygiene issue we're having right now, trying to get people help humanely. We only have 1 hospital to go to, and now we're transporting people every day to Fairmont and as far as Princeton, West Virginia. We've had people unfortunately had to sit at the hospital for 30 hours, and I don't know, it's not humane to me, and that's a big issue, that's created with closing of Hillcrest and OVMC, so that creates more issues there. Manpower-wise, to say we're struggling, we're struggling because our overtime budget's going crazy. We have to keep people on patrol. We definitely keep deputies out there on patrol, but also doing transports. I have to send 2 deputies to Princeton. They're gone for 10 hours. 5 hours down, so we're losing a lot there. So it's a huge issue with manpower, and budget-wise, it's a big strain on the budget.
Next Thursday night, Halloween trick or treat. What's some Halloween safety? Just a quick tip you could give to people.
Well, especially it's going to be getting closer to dark. Wear something reflective. I've actually got some bags for the kids ordered to come in so they can take bags, and they're actually a brighter bag so you can see that. Parents, check the candy. You know, there are still people out there that do strange things, so we just want to be very careful like that. And the biggest thing is safety. Try to use crosswalks, try to be carefully watch, because a lot of drivers out there aren't watching, especially in this construction time right now. People in a hurry to get everywhere. So be very, very, very careful crossing streets, going through neighborhoods. We'll probably have some extra patrols out on top of that. I know the city probably will too, but we'll have extra patrols out throughout the county trying to help out.
Well, Sheriff, thank you for being here. Good luck with all these challenges that you're having to deal with right now. I know it's not easy, and I appreciate you taking the time out to be here.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, we need to take a break. When we come back, I'll be talking sports. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
You can love what you drive.
Sunset Motors continues to be the 2019 Ohio Valley leader in Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, and Dodge sales. During Ram Power Days, get 25% off a 2019 Ram. Or lease one for $299 per month. Lease a Gladiator Sport for $359 per month. Or buy one for $38,105. Get a new Jeep Compass starting at $18,220. Or lease a Latitude for $279 per month.
You can love what you drive at Sunset.
Disasters happen. Pick the team that takes care of them all. Powered by offices in Wheeling, Morgantown, and Pittsburgh, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration is ready to handle any size emergency at a moment's notice. We have the right people, knowledge, and equipment to respond 24 hours a day.
I'm Neil Brown. When disaster strikes your home or business, tell your insurance provider you prefer the restoration company the Mountaineers call, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration.
Welcome back to the show. It's time to talk sports, and we'll start in the city of Pittsburgh, where Pittsburgh Pirates president Frank Coonelly is apparently out. They said mutual parting of the ways between the team and Mr. Coonelly, but this follows the departure of manager Clint Hurdle, so some shakeup in the Pirates organization, which is probably needed given the performance over the last couple of years. Frank Coonelly, a real gentleman. I had the opportunity to meet him a couple of times and get to know him a little bit, and a really gentlemanly type guy. But the team just hasn't performed, and after a period of time of being in a position that the team's not performing, maybe it's time to try something new, of course. So there'll be a new president, and at least a new president and a new manager. No word on any change yet with respect to the general manager, but some changes there in Pittsburgh that we'll keep an eye on in the weeks to come. Interestingly, speaking of baseball, the first time since the 1910s that the New York Yankees went an entire calendar decade without making it to a World Series, being eliminated by the Houston Astros in the last week. So interesting there. Let's turn to football. The Steelers, after an off week, now get the Miami Dolphins on Monday Night Football. And, the Dolphins kind of historically bad. I mean, they're just a bad football team. The Steelers should be able to get a win. And as I said last week, I think 4 of the next 5 games are probably winnable. But at Heinz Field Monday night should be able to take care of the Dolphins. But the Ravens are looking tough to catch. I mean, they've got a bye this week, but even if the Steelers beat the Dolphins, the Steelers will be 2 games back. Plus, right now, the Ravens would hold the tiebreaker with the head-to-head win over the Steelers. So Steelers have a lot of work to do in the second half to try to win the division or even get a wild card. So, with all the injuries, of course, now Stephon Tuitt out for the year with the chest injury. Ben Roethlisberger, of course, has been out and will not return this year. So a lot to be done if the Steelers are going to make the playoffs and have a chance to make any noise. It looks like the Patriots are going to continue to be awfully tough to beat, unfortunately. Let's turn to your college football Saturday and set out the day for you. First of all, at noon, number 13 Wisconsin at number 3 Ohio State. That game will be on Fox. Wisconsin, one of the biggest upsets in Big Ten history in the last number of decades, beaten by Illinois last week. Really a surprise there. Wisconsin was like 4 touchdown favorites and got beaten on the last-second field goal. OSU, of course, coming off a big win over Northwestern last Friday night. I think Ohio State just too much speed and athleticism for Wisconsin. Wisconsin can run the football, but I think that they're limited in other ways, and Ohio State will win the game there, especially being at home. Then at 3:30, right here on WTRF on CBS, number 9 Auburn at number 2 LSU, the battle of a couple of Tiger teams there. Auburn lost to Florida a couple weeks ago. LSU still undefeated. Not much offense for Florida. Playing a backup quarterback, and he's doing really well. Trask is. But I just don't think they can score enough points to keep up with LSU. LSU is playing really well with Joe Burrows at quarterback, the Ohio State transfer. LSU would just have to turn it over a bunch in this football game in order to lose. I don't think they do. I think LSU wins this one at home before an off week and then a big game against Alabama, who's having issues of its own with its quarterback, Tua, being hurt. Had surgery on a high ankle sprain this week, so we'll keep an eye on Alabama. I don't think they'll have much trouble this week, but have to keep an eye on that because they'll play this week against Arkansas and then an off week, and then they get LSU, so it'll be a big matchup. Will Tua be back in time, and how healthy will he be? Also at 3:30, number 6 Penn State at Michigan State, also on ABC right here on WTRF. This is a dangerous game for Penn State. They're coming off that emotional night game win over Michigan. Now they go on the road to Michigan State. Michigan State has 3 losses this year. They're to number 3 Ohio State, number 13 Wisconsin, and a 3-point loss to number 24 Arizona State. Michigan State, a very dangerous team. I think Penn State gets upset this week. I think they're too high coming off that Michigan win, and they lose this one on the road. It's 7:30. Number 8 Notre Dame against the number 19 Michigan Wolverines, also on ABC right here on WTRF. Notre Dame was off last week, not just an off game, but they were off school all this week. This was fall break for Notre Dame. Notre Dame traditionally plays well coming off fall break. They had the whole week not to worry about classes. Michigan coming off that tough road loss at Penn State. Notre Dame tight end Cole Kmet, I think, will be a problem for Michigan, and Michigan just can't score enough points to keep up with Notre Dame. Notre Dame wins this one on the road in a close game. 10:30, late night game. Pac-12, Washington State at number 11, Oregon on ESPN. I love these late night Pac-12 games because anything goes, it seems. Oregon came from behind last week to beat Washington. It looked like Washington had them on the ropes, which probably would have eliminated the Pac-12 from the title conversation, but Oregon's still in it as of now. They're 14-point favorites this week over Washington State, but I think they could lose this game. Washington State can score. I think Oregon's going to have a big letdown after that comeback win over Washington. I think Washington State pulls off the upset as well. And while we're talking about upsets, I'm not sure if it's going to happen or not, but just keep an eye out for Boston College at number 4 Clemson. That game's at 7:30 on the ACC network, and it's just hard to keep winning every week for 2 years in a row. Clemson was undefeated last year, first team to ever go 15-0 in college football history. This is a dangerous game for them. It's in Death Valley, so I think that makes it really tough for Boston College. But Boston College has been playing much, much better in recent weeks. Clemson better watch out. Trevor Lawrence has been throwing some interceptions. They turned the ball over too much and give Boston College a little bit of life and hope early on in this game. Boston College, just could pull off the upset. We'll see what happens. I think there's going to be a number of upsets this college football weekend. That's one of the things I love about college football so much. I mean, you can see teams like in Illinois beat a Wisconsin as a 4-touchdown underdog. It just makes it so exciting. And every game matters in college football. You can't go, 8-4 and then still win the championship. You got to win. You got to win. You got to win. You got to win. Every week matters, and that's what makes it so much fun. I'm looking forward to another fun college football Saturday. I thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you again next time on the Jamie Bordas Show.